We'll get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm gonna welcome Sandy on behalf of Dr. Matthew. But first, wanted to remind everyone that our writing accountability group is on Friday mornings, starting at 10, but currently 10:30 to noon. Open to anybody who's interested in it, and you can come for like 10 minutes, you can come for 90 minutes, just it's a way to kind of indicate your writing goals and spend some dedicated time doing scholarly activity. So if you want more information, talk to me or Dahlia. Anyway, so welcome to Sandy DeGroote, who has joined us from the Chicago campus today. Sandy has been with the UIC library since 1998 as a health science librarian, and is the scholarly communications librarian. She's an expert in all things scholarly communication. So not just this, but like a wealth of other things related to publishing. So, and guidelines for fund for NIH and such things. So, I'm just gonna stop there. It's not very good. I didn't prepare too much, but thank you, Sandy, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I am going to share my screen. And I do have a couple of PowerPoint slides here. If you want to have a record of that, if you go to Research Guides, NIH Biosketch /Science CV, this is a link to the PowerPoint that I'm using. And it's a direct link to my box, so whenever I update it, it'll be the updated version. So just to kind of get us started, for those of you who may not have used Science CV before, it is part of the My Bibliography, or is that what it's called? Hold on. My NCBI, sorry, my NCBI in PubMed. So they don't really make that outwardly obvious until you actually logged in. But when you log in here, you are logging into my NCBI, and within that, then I'll show you in a moment. You'll see biosketches and also the place where you have access to my bibliography. So Science CV is, as I mentioned, in my NCBI, and that contains your information about education, employment, research activities, publications, honors. It actually does not have grants in it at this time, and other professional contributions. And so you use Science CV to create biosketches. Right now, the main ones are for NSF and NIH, but the idea is that in the future, so at some point, the Science CV, the forms were supposed to update in May 2025 to create this common form so that there's a lot more similarity between the different agencies, so that it's not a lot of reworking information to apply for NSF or NIH. And so at this point, the forms themselves have not changed. However, it is my understanding that the requirement that you use my NCBI to create your biosketch is in place. I understand that NIH can tell if you have just used the template, the Word template, because they can tell somehow in the metadata. And so they want for people to create and export in PDF format from my NCBI or from the Science CV. you will see that there are still a way to export in Word. I assume that once they update it, that will be changed, but what I've heard from other people is that they want PDF.
So there will be a file name. When you are actually creating, you need to approve that this is the one that you wanted to download. And once you download, you need to keep the same file name when you upload to the grant, otherwise they won't accept it.
Okay, and so that's also good to know that they're also looking for a same file name. So. The other thing that I know is, so once the common form changes, so because NSF's common form is there. You can tell that once the NIH common form will be in place, that you will have to verify the information. And you won't, it will be giving you instructions that you're not supposed to edit it once you download PDF. If you need to edit something, you're gonna need to go back into my NCBI, into Science CV and edit it there. So that's just some ideas of what I know, what's likely to happen once that new form is there. I checked yesterday and I didn't see any indication that they know when this new form will come. What I do know also from just looking at the NSF one is that instead of it being one form, it will be two. So it will, one form will have your grant information on it, but in just current grants. And then the other one will have the stuff that we're gonna be looking at today. So there are basically two ways. So one of the biggest things that is not actually contained within my NCBI is your publications. And I know that that's kind of a hard thing to grasp, but your publications are actually either listed in ORCID or listed in my bibliography. And my NCBI reaches out to them, grabs that and brings it in. So we can't see because of the bar right here, but I have here that you add publications either through my bibliography, which is bringing it in through PubMed or through ORCID. And so before we actually go and spend too much time in my NCBI, I do just want to talk a little bit about ORCID. I assume that most people now have an ORCID ID because many publishers ask you for your ORCID ID. It is now also a requirement of the federal government when you're applying for an ORCID ID. So ORCIDs, they're, persistent identifiers, and that ORCID ID is to carry with you through your lifetime. So even if you go to another organization, you should keep the same ORCID ID and just update your affiliation information. So I always suggest it's a good idea to also add in a non-UIC email address, a personal address, in case you forget. If you do leave and in, that time, if you don't log in for a while in between UIC and the new place, you then have that other email address to let you log back in. Of course, nobody's gonna leave UIC, but
Oh, okay.
I
I
don't want it to be a PowerPoint, yeah.
Oh, no.
You want it to be bigger?
No, hide it, we can hide this
Oh, yeah.
one. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you can't really see it, but
Yeah.
it's there, maybe. Anyways,
It's good. Okay,
just
so,
imagine that
sure.
you can see it and then.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so why would you want to use ORCID? And keep your publications in ORCID. One is to keep in mind that ORCID is a public website, and sometimes these grant agencies are gonna look at your ORCID profile. So, even though, because you're, here we're talking about NIH, probably gotten NIH funding. If you've gotten NIH funding, your publication is going to go into PubMed Central. If it's in PubMed Central, because you've complied with the NIH public access policy, it's automatically gonna show up in PubMed. And you can very easily add it to my bibliography. However, if you have publications that you have written that were not funded by the NIH, and they're not specifically in biomedical journals, which PubMed is only indexing biomedical journals, ORCID is a good place to bring in publications that might be in journals outside what's indexed in PubMed. And also, as I just said, it is a public website. So if you want people to see your full profile, you also might want to have your kind of full information in ORCID. So ORCID, and I already have an account. And one thing I'll just point out, if you haven't discovered this yet, is once you have your ORCID ID, I would suggest that you sign in through your institution, so sign in through UIC. So we can click this and we can enter, I've already entered in University of Illinois, Chicago. And what that means is that you can then link it with your NetID and password, so that you only need to remember one password instead of two. So that's what I've done, so it already knows I've got. I guess I can just sign in for information. And I'm sure it's probably gonna remember that. So, ORCID does have a lot of upfront information that you can apply: employment, education and qualifications, professional activities, so research to the profession, to the college, to university, your funding, you can add it, and there is some ways to bring it in without having to type too much. This information, so funding, as I mentioned, is not actually in my NCBI, so even if you fill it in here, it's not, as far as I know, going to fill it in for the NIH public access policy. But if you've never created a profile in my NCBI or in Science CV Biosketch, if you have the information such as your employment filled in your education and qualifications, the very first time you go to create a Biosketch, we can import information from ORCID to automatically fill it in. My NCBI, or the Biosketch, is one of the only places where I've seen most of the information that people put in ORCID actually fill in the other spots. In many cases, even if you have all this information filled in, like employment, it's really only the publications that carry over, and vice versa. And it is still fairly new, so I'm hoping, as technology and innovation moves forward, that more systems will allow more information to automatically import from ORCID. So as an aside from my NCBI, say you did leave UIC and they had some other system at that new institution, you could just port all that information easily in. But at this point, at least in terms of my NCBI, your employment information and education and qualifications will fill in my NCBI, the Biosketch. But for right now, I'm just gonna focus on the publications. So the best way to get a large group of publications into your ORCID profile, if it's not already there, is to do a connection with Scopus. So anything ideally moving forward, if you were asked for an ORCID ID, when that article is published, it should automatically come in, because the whole idea is you provide your ORCID ID to the publisher, and then when the publisher publishes it, they send a message back to ORCID, and it should automatically populate. But for old information, we would click on Add, and you can see here, if you happen to know the DOI or the PMID, you could, put that information in and bring it up without having to do a lot of typing. If you use, reference management software, you can import in BibTeX format. I'm pretty sure you can export from Google Scholar in BibTeX format and then import, so that's another way. You can also manually add things. So you would say more specifically what it was you're adding, because the different fields, so it's journal article. But you can also add in conference presentations and conference posters here. But again, that's more manual, but if you wanted to bring in a large amount at one time, we're gonna click on search and link. And I'm gonna go down and find Scopus. And then it's gonna go into Scopus and search for me. Now, I do have the benefit of having a fairly disambiguous name. So that I don't really have to put an affiliation and it'll find me. If you have a more common name, it's probably a good idea to also add an affiliation. So I'll click start. I happen to know this is me. So I'm going to click it and then just follow through with the instructions. And it's defaults to click on everything in the list. If I see something that I know actually isn't mine, I could unclick it to not go in, but these are all mine. And so I'm going to follow through the steps. And they'll get sent to Orchid. If for some reason a publication didn't automatically show up in Orchid, you do have to go through this process of going to Scopus. It doesn't just, because I've now connected it this one time to Scopus, it won't just now go and automatically update it. I do have to go through those steps again to see if there's any new publications to bring in. So that's a way to bring and get a fairly robust list of publications into Orchid without having to type a lot.
Is that green eye and red eye means?
Excellent question. So there is a default up here. Account settings, I think it is. And visibility. So if your default is everyone, new publications that come in are automatically public on your Orchid website. You could say only trusted organizations, so usually that's still going to be the content that you got from publishers, and only those would be able to see what's there. But if you said only me, then only you can see the information. So as you can see here, mostly everybody picks everyone. If there's something that you feel people could find controversial, some types of researchers like that, you could go and put it as trusted so that members of the public can't see it, but it's still going to talk to those different tools that are connected to Orchid. So that's basically Orchid. So, we haven't talked about my NCBI yet and Science CV, but you'll see once we get in there why we wanted to get our publications into Orchid. And it's particularly useful if your publications, you have some publications that aren't in PubMed, because it's a quick way to make them available to you in Science CV without having to add them to my bibliography. So let's now switch to talking more about my NCBI, my bibliography, and Science CV. So similarly to what I had done with Orchid, I have connected my NCBI account with Orchid, but there are other ways that you can connect to log in. So I believe single sign-on is also an option here, if you wanted to go that route. But because I've connected with Orchid and Orchid is connected with single sign-on, I can log in that way. So I'm in, and as I mentioned, it doesn't really say this is my NCBI, but it's my NCBI. And so once we get in and go to the dashboard, here it actually admits it's my NCBI. And we can see my bibliography is here, and then Science CV. Just a few things before we talk about those two features. Account settings. This is where you can connect it with Orchid, which is a good idea if you want to bring that other information in, if you happen to have your education and your past employment filled in, connecting it with Orchid, but also to bring in those Orchid publications. And so you would just click on add account and then look specifically for it. Now, because I've already added Orchid, it's not going to bring it up in the list for me, so I'll just show you using NSF. That if I had an NSF account, I could then log in there to make a connection with NSF as well. And then the other thing I'll point out is that you can add delegates. And so you can see here they can be help you manage my bibliography or Science CD. Now they do also have to have already created a my NCBI account. But then once they do, you can add them as a delegate to be able to log in and help you with your profile. All right, so let's go back to my NCBI. So before we talk too much about Science CV, let's just talk about that other feature that brings in publications, which is my bibliography. And my bibliography is most easily cross-populated based on publications that are in PubMed. So if I go, PubMed's just easier to type in. And again, this looks a little simple because my name's fairly disambiguated to begin with, but I can just search for my name and my publications come up. And so I can select specific ones, or if I don't select any because they're all mine, I can just click on send to and tell it to send it to my bibliography. So hopefully your name's fairly disambiguous so that you can just do that and then just quickly send them all to my bibliography. If not, you might just have to click which ones are yours. And then I'll just click add. If they're already in my bibliography, it's not gonna re-add them. So now when I go to, now I can actually see my bibliography. And so the publications are here. So as long as they're here, I will be able to, again, once I'm in Science CV, add them as a publication option. You can also manually add publications to my bibliography. So if you want my bibliography to reflect all your publications, not just those that easily came in from PubMed, but maybe there are some unique ones that were in Scopus. If we click here on add citations, you can add from a file. I'm pretty sure in this case, it's file format is one of the reference manager, which is
.ris is what it wants.
exactly, that's what the words I was looking for, .ris. So you can export, I'm pretty sure from Scopus and .ris format, and then you can import them in here. I'm not 100% sure that you can export in RIS format from Scholar, Or you can manually add things. So again, similar to what we saw with ORCID, you would select a specific type of publication type. And you do that in order to, one, identify what type of publication it is, but also it will prompt you for different fields depending on what it is that you're trying to enter. So now we have all of our publications listed in ORCID or in my bibliography in my NCBI. So now when we go to ORCID, at least between the two places, we'll have all of them available to us. Sorry, I just said go to ORCID. When we go to my NCBI. So I'm gonna click here on my name, go to the dashboard, and now we're gonna go into Science CV. So let me just walk you through a Biosketch first, and I'm sure most of you are already familiar with it, but just so if you're not, you can see that my here is connected to my ORCID ID. And one thing I'll also point out is that you'll notice I have NIH Biosketch Master. And that way I have one Biosketch that has all my information in it. And then if I go to create a new Biosketch for a specific grant, I can import all that information in and then edit it specific to that grant so that I always have this single place that has everything in it, and then I can modify it as I need for that specific grant. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So education and training is here, my personal statement. So here you want to be briefly describing why you're well suited for the project. So this is very specific to the grant that you're writing about. You know, why are you well suited to this? What are some of the specific things that you want the reviewers to know about you? If you have recent grants that you think are relevant, this is the place to highlight them. Because again, it doesn't really ask about grants in this document. And then in addition to that, you can add, now here it's specifically saying for peer-reviewed publications. So here you do only want to put peer-reviewed publications. And when I click select citations, so this is why we talked about before my bibliography and ORCID. Between those two, my publications are all here. And it does, you know, you can click 2 in one list and 2 in the other. It will know if you have gone over and selected too many. It will tell you, sorry, you can't. So you pick 4 and then click save. And then those, I guess unless I'm gonna click 3. Then those 3 publications in my case show up. Down below that is your scientific position, so really past and current employment relevant to scholarly work, honors and awards if you have any. And then below that, we have contributions to science. So here you can have up to 5 contributions to science. If you don't have a lot of publications yet, that's okay. You can put 1, but if you have 5 different areas or 4 different areas, whatever is appropriate for you, you can have that. So this contributions to science gives researchers a place where they can describe their 5 most significant contributions. And so you can describe what it is and then also include up to 4 peer-reviewed publications. You actually can include other things here as well. So again, we see this citation. So if I click select, and again, I have that access to those 2 places that are actually containing the publications, and I can add them. And then you do the same for each of the contributions to science. And again, you don't have to add a contribution to science if you don't want to. If you don't have to add a new one, but you can do up to 5. So, you know, again, you could have already have your 5 contributions to science ready. And then when you create a new biosketch for that, based on this template for that specific grant, if you think one contribution isn't that relevant, or if you just want to edit it in some way to highlight something, you can do that without, and still having sort of a main one to work with. So, here we can see all that I've got created. If I want to get rid of something, because I was just playing around, or I'm angry because I didn't get the grant, I don't want any memory of it. And this is like trash, get rid of it. But let's talk about a couple of ways to create a new biosketch.
Is there
So-
a word limit, a page limit now?
Yes, I believe it's 5.
Five.
Yeah, and so that's something to pay attention to, that when it generates it, if it's more than 5 pages, you're gonna wanna go back and probably somewhere in your narratives, cut that down a little bit. So here I'm gonna click on new document, and the first time, let's just say you've never created a biosketch before in this system. So let's talk about how we can do this using assuming that we have filled out our ORCID profile a little bit. We could select ORCID. Now, you can also, as you see here, use ERA Commons. I'm not sure how much ERA Commons has it in comparison to ORCID, if it has your past work history and education, that's also an option. So just so that you can see, so this is really more of a one-time thing to start off your biosketch. So click create, and so it's going out to ORCID right now and bringing in all the stuff it can. There's some things here I was like, I don't understand why this is here, but anyways. So I apparently have like a to-do, I don't know how that got there, so that makes me think I better go back and look at my ORCID profile and see why I have to-do there. Maybe I was working on a to-do list, I don't know. But you can see it brought in my education, sort of brought in my work. Anything else like contributions to science, I hadn't written anything yet there. And I also haven't put in my personal statement, but it gets me started so that I can at least start off not having to type. So you would then go in and fill this all in as your first time. Now, once you have one created, and I'll actually just point out here, when you see this kind of thing, that means it brought information in, but there's still some field that isn't right, and so you'll have to click to edit the entry, and then click edit, and then figure out so this doesn't have a year in it, so. And that was tough. So then you can fix it that way. All right. So let's go take a look at an example of, now you've created your full and you've created your master, and you're going to apply for a new grant. It's going to be fairly similar. We're gonna go to Science CV, we're gonna click new document. So I'm gonna tell it I want to create the biosketch, and I'm gonna use an existing doc. And so I'm gonna use that master and bring in everything that's in my master, and then I'm gonna edit this to that specific grant. So I think that's largely it.
So here can we rearrange the contribution to science? Like that 5 contributions that we entered, can we rearrange it?
I think so.
Yes. No, if you're asking, I think we can, move them around, we wanted to put them in different order from,
Do you make a project as specific, what we're looking for?
Correct.
and then your personal statement, hopefully it's kind of somewhat started for you, and then you're gonna customize it for that specific grant. And again, you know, you then go to your select citations and you're just gonna select the ones that are most relevant at that point. And then once you're done, you can click this button here to say, include a link to my bibliography, which will be everything, not just those ones that you've selected. So the thing to note here is I believe once the common form is in, you will be asked to verify. And then probably you will only be provided with a PDF. And so you download it, open it, and hope it's under 5 pages. On it, since I didn't put too much in. So that's how this works. Any questions?
So one question, like previously in the Biosketch, they have one section after the personal statement, you can see my recent and recent completed grant, which I want to highlight. Now they do not have this, right?
Well, I think they have a separate form for that.
Oh, okay, current and pending support.
Yeah.
Okay,
And if we
Okay.
look at what is in the NSF.
okay. Yeah, it's a current.
So just to take a quick look at what NSF has. So here's what their main one looks like, and what they don't have here, so they have what's called products and up to 5, but they don't have, so this synergistic activities, that is gone now. So this is not an updated template, and I just keep it there just so that I can talk about the fact that that is now a 1-page document that people are supposed to write separately. And that I assume quite possibly what NIH will do
Okay.
once. But the other form then, so this says it's outdated, and that's because that that one statement is gone.
Current
So,
pending support.
yeah, NSF grant, so this is where the current and pending goes.
Okay, sure.
And I'm not sure, we can take a quick look here to see if we say new document.
Yeah.
That's because we're very creative people. If we say current and pending. So I was hoping that we would see Orchid, and I'm kind of surprised that Orchid isn't here as a way to fill in that information, but it isn't, so. You're gonna have to manually fill in your grants.
Yeah.
If you're, writing a couple of grants close together, you'll be able to repurpose that current and pending and edit it, so.
Last week, we have so many code for these things. They have a specific number,
Yeah,
CV with 77085. If you miss something, the NSF not taking anything. So it's the number with,
I see.
yeah, so they reject it. So if you have numbers, so their original file downloaded from, they have just like you downloaded that right now. CV 1700815, the domain number. You have to download that, upload that file. You don't have to any modification, just like a save as, they don't pick your documents.
Oh, wow, well, I guess they're trying to filter out people with patience. As long as they have patience.
Last week, we have so many trouble for it.
Yeah, we change it to, like, I changed my NSF CV to Li, NSF CV, then it's not working, I have to go to the previous one. I don't know.
So maybe they don't want identifiers,
Yeah, right, it's just a number,
They
that's
don't
not the
want-
point, right?
personal like.
Just a number.
All right, so hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea how to use this. Any questions?
The scoop, like, so that when you put your publication, sometimes you have additional one. So like, I think I could not add it. I have to email them, said like, this is the one which belong to me, then they will review and they will add for the scoop, like, profile, scoops, yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
we should be able to manually add them either through, so I think that maybe the thing is that you either have to have it added in Orchid or in my bibliography, but
Oh,
you
then
should
they
be
will
able
be
to add it
In
in
that
either of
place,
those two places and then bring it in, but
Mm.
yeah, that's the thing, like Orchid,
from these two.
the Science CV itself does not have your publications, you need to get them listed in one of those two other places and then let them in. Yes. All right, well, that's it.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to ask if.
Sorry, is there any, sorry, I should make sure that no one online.
Yeah,
has any
is
questions.
anyone ask questions from online, from the chat?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it was recorded and someone will, I'm sure, make sure it gets a bit,
Okay, yes,
the report.
yeah.